Definitely the perfect time to leave your mark indeed. It brings us to 20 minutes to 6 p.m. and our game changer today being Linda Kasonde. She just recently launched her brand new book called Women, Resilience and the Will to Lead. This just yesterday, actually was launched yesterday, and we do have her on the line this afternoon to just talk to us a bit about, the inspiration to this book, what it's all about, and also perhaps if you are an aspiring author, what it is that you need to do to get into the business. Linda, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. How are you doing?
I am well, thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and good evening to all the listeners.
It's definitely a pleasure to have you on the show with us and to also be our game changer this afternoon. And I think, perhaps we can just maybe start our conversation off with maybe you just giving us a bit of a background into if being an author is something that you've always wanted to do. Where did you draw this inspiration from?
Well, I have always written articles and short pieces, thought leadership pieces in newspapers and magazines for many years now, mainly on women in leadership issues, rule of law, democracy, because I'm a lawyer practicing in Zambia. I run a human rights organization called Chapter 1 Foundation.
Okay. Wow, interesting. Beautiful merging of your actual career and your background, and also, bringing that into the creative writing space. Now, let's talk about the book, Women, Resilience and the Will to Lead. Maybe we can start off with that title. It's a very, very powerful title, I must say, to a book. How did you come up with this?
I was actually inspired by the book Lean In. The full title of the book, Lean In, is Lean In, Women, Work and the Will to Lead. So I took the second part of it, and I really wanted to speak more about the resilience part, because our women, particularly our African women, go through so much. They're so strong. They have to shoulder so many burdens throughout their journeys. And I write particularly about being a woman in leadership and the challenges that comes with that. And I thought it was important to write my story because we often don't hear the stories of women behind historical events in our countries. I think, for example, of the women who were involved in the independence struggle in Zambia. I know of several books written by Zambian men about that period, but none of women. And I think that's even true in the modern age, although it's changing somewhat. A few people are coming out. But one thing that I was very particular about in my book was to be extremely candid about what it really means. In my book, I talk about the loss of a child. I talk about mental health issues. I talk about misogyny. I talk about patriarchy, all the things that affect women that rise to the helm of an organization on the public stage.
Beautiful. Linda, how long did it take you to put all of these words onto pages and, actually publish this book?
I actually started writing the book in 2020, stopped and then picked it up again a year later, and then completed it over a period of a year. So I actually self-published because I have friends who are real writers, that's their day job, and they told me how many rejections they faced before they finally got a publisher. And one of them mentioned that they'd written to 100 publishing houses, and I was like, I don't have time for that. I'm going to go on my own timetable. But I think I'm really happy with the end product. Given the fact that it is a self-published book, I hired an editor, I hired a proofreader. So I'm really happy with the end product. I think it's a good book.
It's very interesting that you're saying, that you self-published. And I know that there must be someone listening right now, that's also an aspiring author and also thinking to themselves, hey, I've got this book that I would like to get published. Would you recommend that is the best route to go in terms of motivating these young authors also, to get that book out there that they've been sitting on for a while?
I really think it's up to the individual. I mean, for example, self-publishing can be a very expensive route. You have to pay for all the editing, you have to pay for the the printing, the distribution, the marketing, the book tours, that's all coming out of your own pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you have an established publisher, they bear a lot of that burden. So it really just depends on what you want. But for me, I thought I could do it, and so I have.
Okay. Now, with the book itself, Linda, what is the main message you want to get out there to those that read the book?
It's a couple of things. Firstly, I wrote the book for myself to really process my experiences. So I was the first woman elected as the president of the Bar Association in my country, Zambia. And in Zambia, the legal profession, or the Law Association of Zambia, is the foremost professional association in the country. It plays on the national stage. We are sought after in terms of guidance on national legal issues. We take matters to court to advance the cause of constitutionalism, the rule of law, and good governance. And just as an example, in my book, I talk about the first big act that I took as president of the association. We went to court when the ministers in government did not leave office when Parliament was dissolved ahead of the 2016 general elections. And that was a breach of the rule of law. And the Law Association of Zambia sued each and every minister and deputy minister in government in their personal capacity for failing to leave office. And we actually won that case, and they were made to pay back the money they had earned during the period they were illegally in office. So it's a very powerful organization. And to give some context, as I mentioned, I was the first woman to be elected as president of the association. And in a patriarchal society such as ours, many people didn't know how to handle a woman in that office. They didn't know what to expect. And, you know, as a woman in leadership, you become vulnerable to many things: smear campaigns, you know, cyberbullying, you know, all manner of things, stories made up about you. But my message to women is that it's important for more women to step into leadership. We need a critical mass of women in leadership in order to normalize being a woman in leadership, so that we're not judged by things outside of our competence or what we can deliver, but more about, you know, it should be about substance, not about what we're wearing, how our hair is combed, you know, things that are completely irrelevant, and who we're having relationships with, completely irrelevant to whether we can do the job or not. And I talk about how the women of my parents' generation, they went through a lot. They were women who went to work without paid maternity leave. In my country, Zambia, until the 1980s, a woman in government salary was pegged to the fact as to what her husband was earning. So she'd earn less and get less benefits because she was married. It was assumed she was being taken care of by her husband. And also until the 80s, women had to get to the permission of their husbands to get a loan from the bank. And of course, things like sexual harassment were rife, even acceptable at that time, because it was just seen as something men did. So women of my parents' generation, as I said, went through a lot. And through them, they have smoothed the way for women of the current generation to, in so many ways. For example, the Beijing conference was a game changer for women's rights across not just Africa, but also the world. And so I'm very grateful to them for doing that, and I'm paying it forward for the next generation, because I do want to see more women in office, more women standing for leadership positions.
Linda, thank you so much for joining us on the show this afternoon. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, and I hope that message can get across there throughout Africa, throughout all of the women that needs to read your story and perhaps, find something that relates to them in that story to inspire them to do what it is that they need to do. And wishing you all the best with the book.
Thank you so much. And just to say, you can buy it on Amazon online under Kindle or either on paperback. So thank you so much for your time, and I hope you buy my book.
There we go. That was Linda Kasonde joining us live on Desert Radio. She just launched her brand new book that is Women, Resilience and the Will to Lead. And you heard you can get that for yourself on Amazon as well as Kindle. And get yourself the book and have a read. And, perhaps you might find that inspiring story in there that really relates to you. And maybe that's the message that you needed to hear this whole time. It is 9 minutes to 6 p.m. and that also means it is time for me to get out of the studio and say goodbye. But hold on.
Game Changer, proudly brought to you